Ladies, gentlemen, and children of all ages, we present to you the very, very green, spectacular television program, Plants and Their Friends.
Good day, plant lovers. This is Robert, and I'm here live on URTV with my new and old plant friends, Corey Pine Shane, who'll be with us the second half hour, and Jason Dion, who is here as an algae today. So I want to welcome Corey Pine, who's an old friend from West Asheville, and a new friend who's Jason, who's founder of Nature's Web Earthworks near Earth Haven. And of course, Corey Pine Shane is the founder of the Blue Ridge School of Herbal Medicine. As you can tell, it's just before Halloween, and we are in the Halloween mood, that's for sure. To our audiences, we encourage you to take notes for our important information about web addresses. Oh, Jason, welcome.
Thank you.
And it's nice to have you here representing the algae kingdom. And we have a huge number of opportunities with this wonderful plant. Tell us a little bit, Jason, on how you got into algae ponds and into lotus ponds.
All right. A few years ago, I got a friend of mine he knew a friend who was looking for somebody to help take care of water features that he had built, like maintaining them and stuff.
Right.
And so I showed up, and he told me about, maintaining these water features that he was building.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, man, this is a great niche. So I just started educating myself about plants, how to control algae, different ecological products and things like that to keep water clear.
Right.
And it just took off from there and snowballed into where I started to build them and install them and just continue to educate myself on how to take care of these water features.
Okay, so lotus ponds. Let's just zero in on that for a second. Do we have is that a photo of it?
No, that's all algae. There's no...
All algae. Okay, let's talk about the algae first then. The algae is able to be put into biofuels now. So our professor at UNCA has indicated on the television. There are stats out now about making algae into biofuels. 1 acre of algae can be converted into 1,500 gallons of biofuels. An algae pond only has to be...
It has to be shallow, between like 1.5 feet, tops kind of thing. Like, you don't want it too deep because you want the water really warm. Algae ponds, like if you're growing algae ponds for biofuel, it's more of, there's like the conversation between an open system and a closed system so an open system is like open to the natural light and everything like that, and then a closed system is like in a greenhouse.
Right,
because
right.
you have to, if you're growing a certain strain of algae, you don't want it being contaminated, much like a mushroom log, like if you're growing mushrooms.
Got you.
Same kind of...
Yeah. Thing. Okay, and we know now that there are certain algae that are better than other algae for biofuels, right?
That is right, and good luck finding that information out, because they talk about, needing a certain strain because some algae are more oil, or can produce more oil than other algae, and finding those names, though, like everybody's saying, like, oh, you need the right strain, but trying to find those right strains can be a process.
So here's an opportunity for somebody out there to discover.
And certainly you would want to be tilapia or tropical, so you'd need to have them in the greenhouse, definitely. But they could certainly probably have pools, so that the
Right.
tilapia are providing nutrients for the algae, so you're not necessarily having to put in some kind of fertilizer or something like that. You've got the fish
Right.
doing the fertilizing kind of
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly. So what do we have here on the screen?
That's basically just a nasty pond with green algae all floating around in it, and the other, while algae can be used as a biofuel, there's also the flip side of it, where people are wanting ornamental ponds, water features where they don't want algae. And so I also wanted to just show a picture of where, there's a situation where there's all this nasty algae, and a lot of times people will talk about putting in harmful chemicals, things
Right.
that, where you have to like seal off the pond, or, have no outflow for 90 days, to be able to deal with it. And plants offer a very natural way of eliminating pond algae like that.
I got you. Okay, so here we have an opportunity for some people out there to go ahead and do some research here on algae for biofuels,
Yeah.
and also how to take out algae that isn't wanted in ponds and make it into biofuels. So we become more sustainable by using our waste products. As the pioneers would say, there is nothing considered as waste. It's always the next ingredient into another process.
Sure.
So that's one of the things that we want to mention right now. This is a great opportunity for North Carolina, which is an agricultural state and does have a lot of small farms, especially tobacco farmers, to have a crop of algae every year, a number of them. Here we have another photo. Explain this one, Jason. What's this about?
So a lot of swimming pools, ponds, not so much ponds, swimming pools. A lot of people will be use chlorine or
Right.
salt
Right.
to keep their swimming pools clean. And this is an option that even if they have a swimming pool already, they can retrofit to be a natural swimming pool where actual plant filtration is keeping the water clean and clear versus putting in chemicals.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's another way that plants can help
Right.
in a very natural and sustainable way. We all know that chlorine has some problems, and it's not the best for us to be swimming in, and yet that is part of our society. We do take that route a lot, and especially community pools, which we have to have some kind of protection there for disease. Okay, let us right now hold up and let me get closer to the screen here. With this book, let's see if we can hold it up and get in really close. There we go. Natural swimming pools for harmony in nature, inspiration for harmony with nature. And this is Michael. What's Michael?
Michael Littlewood.
Littlewood. Tell us a little bit about this one.
So this is a gentleman who I believe is out of Kansas, if I'm not mistaken. I probably am mistaken. And but this book goes into how to build the natural swimming pool, how to implement the plants, and like different designs, different materials, because you can use, to set up the edges to where you have the plants on one side and you have the swimming area in the middle.
Right, here you
see
go.
like that, right? So you can use wood, you can use concrete, you can use block, you can use sandbags, you can use tires. You can use to create those walls so that there's the swimming section and the plant section, and you can have waterfalls going into it, and basically you can create a whole ecosystem with edible water plants like the lotus. Cattails are edible. There's a lot of edible water plants out there, not to mention all the land edibles that could be put into a landscape like that. And the possibilities for a house, a piece of land using the natural swimming pool and growing their own food, having edible gardens, having roof water catchment. I mean, the systems go on and on as far as being as self-reliant as possible and enjoying it in a good way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've talked about the rainwater catchment here on the show before, which would be a part of that kind of a system.
Right.
And this also, we want to talk about any medicinal plants that could be grown or edible plants that they don't have to be our nursery plants just for non-medical uses.
I mean, in my opinion, medicinal plants and edible plants can be just as beautiful as an ornamental landscape, nursery plant.
Exactly.
And yeah, so there's really no, because everything flowers, berries flower,
Okay.
the lotus flowers.
Yeah, yeah. And when we say nursery products, we want to remember that there are also some nurseries that just have native plants and
Edibles.
Yeah. Some great companies around that are local to the area who are trying to make a difference. Plus, as we see in our community gardens, we have Edible Park, which is just a wonderful place for people to go and see how edible plants in a park-like setting could be just a wonderful, wonderful experience.
And the other thing is that, people don't necessarily have to build a swimming pool either. I mean, you can create, still pockets to grow individual lotus in. And if you're worried about mosquitoes, there's a native mosquito fish to this area that is the size of a minnow that can be swimming around in there, and it doesn't need aeration like, flowing water can sit in still ponds. There's environmentally friendly mosquito dunks. So
Right. I remember some of the Earth Haven people were really hot about throwing these tabs into the barrel, and that would just take care of the lava.
Right. So if people are living in urban situations, you don't necessarily have to have a swimming pool or a big water feature to be, enjoying water plants. I mean, digging a hole, lining it with liner and landscape fabric to protect that liner, and you can throw, given that there's plenty of sunlight, you can be growing lotus right in your backyard in beautiful little pockets.
Okay, now you hit on a topic that I'm always interested in, and that is liners for ponds. Mm-hmm. One of the old techniques that they used to do was to get old, over a year and a half carpet that's been taken out of some place and make a sandwich out of it
Right.
with the plastic inside.
Mm-hmm.
But some people are saying that it doesn't matter if it's a year and a half out with the carpet. It still has a lot of chemicals in it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
From what I've seen, carpet sandwiches, A, they have to be done right, and B, the plastic can still degrade even when it's sandwiched in between the two carpets. There's a carpet sandwich pond that I know of that's being redone because it leaks and it's just not doing what they thought it would do.
Okay.
And I think when you're trying to build a pond, you just want to make sure that you're using the best products that you can, and obviously you want to be as environmentally friendly as possible. And at the same time, what are the pros and cons? Like, if you're building a pond and you get all worked up about what kind of products you're using in there, but then you're not catching the roof water, you know what I mean? It's like...
Well, yeah, you have to have it on all kinds of fronts.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like about ponds is that they do allow the water to go slower into the aquifer, and that will sustain our springs, which we're having a problem with the springs drying out now with the drought. So that is, for some people right now, a major problem
No doubt.
of them having to think about now getting a well to supplant that. And the figures that I'm hearing is something between $7,000 to $10,000.
For a well?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a minimum, depending on how many feet they go down, of course.
Sure, and it was like there was a well being dug for $8 a foot, and then a month later it was $10 a foot. So, I mean, the prices can change on that really fast.
Yeah, and so you gotta just really be careful. But a whole bunch of this is because overpopulation in water tables, and we have to really start looking at our planning for our areas with the view of how much water capacity the area can hold. And if we don't look at that realistically, then we are, I think, making a big mistake. And of course, as Chuck Marsh just said on a program here, the amount of water, he gave the figure, coming off a roof, square footage is, or gallons, is just humongous.
Oh, yeah.
Over the year. And that's all. We do not need stormwater systems in this country, period. It was a bad idea. I can understand how that ideas happen, but it was just a bad idea. And we need to move on and look at ponds and swells and all of the other things, including bringing back our marshlandy areas in the mountains. They were the first things that were filled in. And as we had here one time, Josh talking about pitcher plants, there's a real need for bogs to be recreated and reestablished in the mountains of North Carolina, with a lot of plants that are very much endangered right now.
Right, and that's what, these ponds, natural swimming pools, water features, if you're using a reciprocating pump, or,
To circulate.
to circulate the water.
Right.
All of these are opportunities for people to catch their water, use their water in a good way, and clean it up before they return it back to nature.
Yeah, and as a good permaculturist, Bill Mollison once said, what you ideally want to do is have a drop of your water going on to the next property, and that you use every bit of the water that comes down on your land correctly. Okay, well, we've covered a bunch of territory, hey, Jason?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I told you it moves pretty fast here. Let's just, before we jump. Any sunny area, we could probably grow blueberries, blackberries, thornless, of course, and dewberries.
Are those the same as mountain berries?
They are
Those little
similar.
red wine berries?
Yeah, wineberry. Yes, similar. And of course, the red raspberry.
Yeah.
So all of those are potential berries to put into our diet, and for us to have that right outside our. But ideally, I would think between the car and the back door would be a berry place. Eagle Feather Farm has its berries very close between the car and the back door, and it is a way that you can keep an eye on your berries. I say that much. It also, I can look off my deck and look right into the berry patch there and see how that's going.
Right, or you plant them along the way to the water feature.
And
there you go,
and we are next week going to have Peter Lauer on, and we're going to go back into a show that we had a while ago and get a little deeper into it on containerization. And here's a place that you can really dance. You have no excuse whatsoever of saying you can't do it. You just put it in a pot and put it outside your back door, and see the bush or shrub or bramble growing right there, and pull it up on top of the house or lattice work or something that you're right involved with it on a fairly a daily basis, that you come back and forth out of it. And that, I think, is what the plants enjoy, the attention of being seen every day. And you also have a better idea of their water, whether they need some water, whether they're drying out. Those kinds of things are a lot easier to see right in front of you, rather than somewhere away from the house that you have to travel.
Right.
Even if it's 500 feet, it becomes less of a situation where you can keep an eye on your berries. Do you have a favorite, Jason?
Mountain wine berries.
Mountain wine berries, yes.
The red ones that are really juicy.
Yeah, little
shade.
tiny ones. Yeah,
Oh,
Shane yeah, they're really good. I
good.
also had we mentioned on the program last week that we went to Earth Haven's first annual fall harvest. We'll give them another plug for next year, and that was a really nice festival. We had a bunch of people talking about a bunch of different things that were really educational for folks. And I know that the situation out in Earth Haven has some people like Leon doing these kiwis, natural kiwis.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, that's
but
a whole
folks,
other conversation.
If you want
It's out
something
there.
sweet, natural kiwis, they're little, they're smaller.
Bite-size.
Yeah, bite-size, but succulent, juicy. I was just floored by them.
Oh,
and I'm going to definitely try and get some of those on my property. And it's something that you could, I would think, containerize and be able, if you had a big enough container, to do that. So here's a golden opportunity. And for those farmers who are watching out there, this is another fruit that you can add to your farmer's market variety. And I assure you, all you have to do with this one is have people sample it, and you got a sale.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I do have some. Do you want to save that for later?
No,
websites?
we're at later right now.
Okay.
So let's get Juan to maybe show camera one, and we'll talk about some websites here.
Okay.
So mention them.
So if you are interested in algae as a biofuel, you can go to www.oilgae.com, which is OILGAE.com. And that's a whole website dedicated to biofuels using algae.
Great. That's wonderful.
And then for the natural swimming pools, a good website for that is totalhabitat.com.
Great.
And that website is out of Kansas. And 2 places for aquatic plants, Perry's Water Garden, which is in Franklin, and that's perryswatergarden.net. And the marylandaquatic.com.
Okay. Well, there's some things to follow up with, ladies and gentlemen. And now we are going to switch gears here a little bit and want to welcome Corey Pine Shane on the show for a talk about Halloween plants. And this is something not to be missed, folks. If you weren't just gaga over our algae costume, you are really going to like where we're going to go with the druid herbs. This is an opportunity that very few television stations produce out there in television land. So welcome, Corey Pine.
Thank you, Robert.
And let's get right down to business here with some of the druid plants. Talk to us about some history.
Well, first off, I should say I'm not a druid. Yeah, I'm a herbalist. So I've been doing some research because it's a good time of year. Halloween is a very special time for the druids. It's actually the Celtic New Year. The druids were like basically the shamans of the Celts, the shamans of like the Irish islands, and they were one of their big things. They're very in tune with nature. They had a lot of sacred plants. Most of their rituals, most of their get-togethers were done in meadows in the woods. Sorry, clearings. I guess that would be clearings in the woods. There always had to be an oak tree there, for example, because there's an oak or a yew or something that was special.
And what is the oak being used for?
Well, the oak was like a tree that was sacred to Bridget. Bridget was let's see, Bridget is
one of the witches.
Yes. Well, she was one of the goddesses. She was a goddess of poetry, smithcraft, and she's a triple goddess.
Okay. Too bad she's not here on the show. We'll go with that. We tried very hard to get a female herbalist to come on the show, and we did not have a good reception. So I'd like somebody who's out there to remember that request, and here's an opportunity for you to come on Plants and Their Friends and make a difference about some of the plants that we need to learn about. So we know that the oak tree is really important in the Druids' celebrations. What are some of the other plants that we could talk about?
I should also say that oak was especially sacred for this time of year, for the harvest time, and acorns were one of the things that were put on the altar, a symbol of fertility, a symbol of longevity. Really, I mean, if you've seen oaks can live to be, especially the European oaks, they can live to be 1,000 years old. They can be very ancient. So it's a symbol of trees were held very sacred by the Druids, and especially oak, because they were seen as things that had a much longer life than humans did. So they were around before us, they'll be around after us, and the oak tree and other trees kind of hold that memory.
So here's where we have an interesting situation where a society held our trees in special place for remembrance of all of the wonderful things that they do and their abundance in providing for us humans and for the rest of nature that also eat its nuts. I have always proposed on this program a simple question. We have some answers that I have heard, but I want to throw this out to everybody in television land. Who gave human beings the right to cut down a live tree? I mean, it's a question that I've always pondered because for so many years, all of it had been sacred. And if you go back to the Europeans, the monarchy owned all of the trees, and you could go to jail, lose your life if you cut down the forests of the royalty. Here, though, we have a total policy coming through the United States, the Europeans coming through and taking. We have some accounts, only 4% of the old growth still left in America, and 96% of the trees were taken, and we have massive problems from that, including topsoil erosion, which really causes us now to have to amend the soil wherever we go because the topsoil has gone.
Oh yeah, we're losing topsoil at an incredible rate, much faster than it will rebuild itself.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at how these people, the forefathers of America, came here, and they would have foot deep topsoil that was absolutely black, and now you run across the plains of Iowa, and all you have is depleted soil. And if they weren't able to throw the chemicals back on it, it wouldn't grow anything. You have a whole lot of situations. And last week we had the song on corn, and we talked about how prayers and singing, that the Hopi can make corn grow in the desert when nobody else can. And they don't use any chemicals and no fertilizers, and it's an amazing story, and we really need to get back on that track and get away from the chemical uses. Okay, so let's hit another plant with the Druids.
Let's talk about mistletoe.
Whoa!
We have, let's see, mistletoe it's actually a parasitic plant. One of the fascinating things about it is that is it an herb or is it a tree? I mean, a lot of times you'll see mistletoe. The American mistletoe is related to the European mistletoe, but they're different species. I think their magical uses are similar, but their medicinal uses are very different. Matter of fact, almost opposite. So what we're looking at here is the European mistletoe. So it was found growing on apple trees, ash trees, oak trees, but the mistletoe grown on oak trees was considered the most rare, but also the most special, the most valued because of that. Also, oak being a sacred tree and mistletoe being a sacred herb. So it's a fascinating plant because, as I was saying, it's both an herb, but it's growing in a tree, and it's kind of woody, and it grows year round. So it's not a conifer, but it's an evergreen. It's not an herb, but it grows in a tree. So it has this really interesting magical ability. One of the fascinating things about it, it's a parasite with kind of a disorganized style of growth. It might grow up, it might grow out, it might grow down, and it's often been used for cancer. And started in the 1960s, a lot of research was done showing that European mistletoe, Viscum album, was actually very useful for treating cancer. And some drugs have been developed because of that, because of mistletoe's anti-tumor effect.
That's great to know, and it's something that those people who have this condition, cancer condition, can look into to help them get through the illness. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and of course, mistletoe, especially our American mistletoe, has a romantic element to it that we don't want to forget. And for those youngins that don't know about mistletoe being hung over the door so you can kiss your honey, that is Old Time Mountain.
Oh yes, old,
Tradition.
old.
And
Goes way back to the European tradition, where it was
Right.
considered mistletoe was considered an herb from the sacred to the goddess of love.
Absolutely. And it will get you a little bit more attention during the holidays if you're wise to get some mistletoe for your house, guaranteed. And for that alone, the speciality of mistletoe is really sacred, and we appreciate the Druids for showing us some of the wonderful things about mistletoe. Do we have another plant, Corey Pine?
Oh sure, we could even keep going. Let's see what we have next. We have vervain.
Okay, vervain.
Next herb there.
Yeah. Now that's one we can grow here, and
Oh yes, and it actually grows natively. Well, there's a European species and there's also an American species. The American
Gotcha.
species grows natively Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, up through some parts of New England. And that's the blue vervain, so it's related to the European vervain. Beautiful plant. One of the names of it was herb of grace. How about that for a powerful name? Herb of grace.
yeah.
And one of the names was enchanter's herb. It was used for protection against bites and stings, and protection from other people putting a spell on you.
Well, there's a little commonality with those ginseng roots that people put around their neck in China and in the Pacific Rim. We have a wonderful opportunity to grow this, but this has to be in the mountain areas that grows well.
I think so. I haven't tried growing it, but it does actually like wet areas. One of the common names for it is like swamp vervain, although I've heard it more often called blue vervain, because it likes to have its feet wet.
Well, that's
In the
interesting.
Yes,
yeah,
the
interesting
ponds.
to have that following our discussion on ponds and plants. That's a great one to think about. And it also looks like a nice plant that you could probably put on in a vase and or dry it out and have a nice dried flower or a part of a plant flower arrangement.
Does it smell?
It doesn't really have any smell. The taste is a little bit bitter.
Okay.
Although it's a great medicine, it's very useful for upset emotional states. It's very calming, used for colds and for flus. But that's the main way that I've used it. It also opens up the liver.
A liver opener.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing to have. Our liver system is one of our clogged places in our body that has. They always need some help.
Oh yeah.
So a good liver helper is okay by me.
Yeah.
Okay, and what do we have here now?
Here we've got elderberry. That's actually
Whoa.
my hand in there.
Uh-huh.
To credit that there. So this this elderberry, those are the berries, of course. It's also called elderflower. It's the same plant, elderflower, elderberry, or just plain elder or elder shrub. Sambucus canadensis. Obviously from the name canadensis, it's native to North America. But Sambucus nigra, very closely related, is native to the British Isles, including Ireland, and parts of Europe as well.
Okay, so here we have an instance where we're crossing over between druid herbs and edible plants. What a nice match we have here. Yeah, this is one of the places that you can easily be productive in putting in some elderberry along your streams that have some sun. and really kick some good wine out, some great mead. And this is one of those tonic strengthening herbs, is it not?
Oh, it is. It's a small tree. I don't know if you can tell that from this picture, but it's a small tree. Grows to be like 15, sometimes, yeah, maybe 10, 15 feet high. Maybe I've seen some books say 20s. Maybe if it had really good conditions. The flowers are edible. The berries are edible. I make a elderberry syrup. It's a great antiviral remedy. And it could be that could be part of why it was used as one of the herbs for protection as well. Mm-hmm. One of the cool things about it is that they say if you sleep under it on Midsummer's Eve, you'll see the King of Fairies and his entourage come through.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Now that's something special. I also want to point out that the elderberry lives also on the edges of ponds and streams, and is another plant that is right there for us to use for medicinal purposes, and a great food.
Yes.
And able to drink elderberry syrup, elderberry wine. There's lots of, in fact, I even think that elderberry with a little olive oil and vinegar can make and a little garlic maybe would make a great little salad dressing.
Oh yeah.
And also that grows nearby is the Japanese honeysuckle. You can throw a couple of those things in there too. Okay, let's move on to the next herb.
So say one more thing about the elder, if that's
okay.
all right.
Yes, we can. Let's get back to the elder there. And
Just that the flowers have been used. In my reading, I found that flowers have been used in wish fulfillment spells, and also that they were strewn. What a great word that is, strewn. They were strewn to bless a person, a place, or a thing. That you kind of take these and scatter probably the elder flowers, I would imagine.
right. Of course, if we take the flowers, we're not going to get the berries.
Right.
But so that's a tremendous sacrifice for somebody to put a flower down, strewn it. Is that what? To throw it out on the ground as a blessing for the thing. But what a wonderful thing to do.
Oh, I know. And it's also said that there is a spirit that lives in. It was also said that there's a spirit that lives in elder. And when I was reading about the Druids, it said that there was a dryad, a tree spirit that lives in it.
Uh-huh.
In another culture, I'm not sure which, I've heard that there was the witch that lives in elder, known as, I believe, Hildemore.
Huh.
And it said that if you cut down this tree, it's a very sacred tree, you're not supposed to cut it down or harm it. So if you cut down the tree, then either the dryad or the witch will come back and get you.
Oh, yeah.
Haunt you.
Oh, we believe in that one. Yes, sir. Okay. So here we are coming down the pike. Last thoughts that we have. Any more? You said you had one more?
One more, actually, which is holly.
Oh, yes. American holly or European holly?
Well,
it doesn't
probably
matter.
either one. I mean, talking about the Druids, so we talked about European holly.
hollies, right.
But we have native hollies as well. And holly, because it was evergreen, represented immortality, right? The leaves were around all year long. And there's a sense of protection, because if you think about holly leaves, they're kind of pokey. You can't really just like get right up in there to a holly tree.
Exactly. And they'll poke you in the back too if you try and slip by them without proper notice to them. American holly is a very, very interesting plant. They're going to digress just a second here, but at Eagle Feather we had a farm tree analysis done by the state of North Carolina for us, and you just have to put your name on the list, and they do it free. It may take a couple of years till they get around to it. But in that analysis, they found a very rare holly tree on my property.
Really?
So the next time you come about, I want to show you that one, and maybe we'll do a druid ceremony around it to give that special holly, that special feeling that
With elderflowers.
yeah, that's a good way of doing it.
Nice.
That's a good way of doing it. Nice, yeah.
I like that.
Okay, so we're coming near the end of the program. We have not.